say something.
Hello. Adventure.
Love.
Connection.
Risk.
Passion.
Evolution.
Play.
Life. The Archetypal Tarot Podcast. Provocative mythology for the 21st century.
Hello, fine listeners. Cyndera and I are back, and we're super excited to bring you more provocative tarot insight, especially now that this election is come and gone. Woo!
Aloha!
Aloha! We're back together!
Oh,
live and in person!
Oh, we're here!
Oh my goodness, it's been a long time since, we were actually recording together. Were we drunk the last time we recorded together?
Was that our drunken podcast?
Could be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've been on our own interviewing people and stuff.
Oh my gosh, that was the last one. So we are here actually in Hawaii.
We're on Maui, the beautiful island of Maui. We're no longer in our closet in San Francisco. How weird is that?
We're out of the closet now.
Well. Yes. The proverbial archetypal tarot closet. But yes, Julienne, I have moved. I went on a grand adventure trying to figure out where I wanted to live after San Francisco, and I miraculously landed in the beautiful island of Maui in Hawaii, which, here's an interesting fact that I did not know until after I moved here, is the most isolated landmass in all the world, like the whole planet. Interesting.
Wow.
I know. My mother thinks I ran away, but I was not running away. I was running to, and I'm massively in love with this place.
Oh, I am so happy for you. And you have the most gorgeous tan going on. This island looks so good on you.
Thank you. Mahalo. And I am learning much about the mythology and the culture here, and the language is amazing. I mean, I could make this whole podcast about my love for the beautiful place that I live in now, the culture that's here, and I could totally do that. But Cyndera's here, and she's visiting, which has been magnificent. And she was over on the other island next to us, the Big Island, for a retreat, doing yoga and doing some wonderful things. I think she'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be a little bit less strictly about archetypes and tarot, but certainly talking about living a good life, paying attention to symbols, having a dialogue, essentially, because that's what I believe the tarot and archetypes are, is a way for us to use a universal language of symbols and archetypes in your daily life.
And I would say if we had a tarot theme for this podcast today, it would be the landscape, which sometimes gets neglected. Right. I would say in the tarot, we're very focused on the characters that are showing up. And we will have some characters for you. Pele is going to be coming into this podcast, which I'm very excited about. But it's also about place. We're so inspired about where we are at right now and where we've come from. So we're acknowledging that place of place and what influence that bears.
Totally true.
So, Julienne.
Yes.
When we were first getting to know each other, we were doing a trade, and you were giving me archetypal readings, and I was giving you tarot readings. We were doing this little trade. And I remember you were attracted to the one deck that I knew the least about at the time, which is the Mana cards, the Power of Hawaiian Wisdom, which I guess are out of print now?
I think so. I don't even have a set, but...
Oh my gosh, they're amazing. And you were really attracted to this deck. And
this is 2011?
Back in 2011.
Yeah,
so we did this reading... And you had questions around relationships, and the card that came up, and we just recognized it today, by the way, because we both drew cards from the same deck again. And the card of Maui popped up again today, and we both recognized it from way back then when we did this first reading.
Yeah.
And can you describe this card to us, Julienne?
I will, and you know what I think would be okay? I'll put we'll put photos on the page that goes with this podcast. But the Maui card, which Cyndera pulled this morning, it's a beautiful scene surrounded by flowers and greenery, and there is a figure of a man, and he's pretty buff. I'm just going to say that he's got a six pack, but he's a warrior, sort of a male warrior figure, and he is kind of standing on the top of a kind of a mountain next to the ocean, and his hands are up, reaching up to the sky, and you don't see the top of his head because his head is in the clouds, and his hands look like they're touching the clouds. So it's this strong masculine figure wearing a red kind of loincloth, and you can tell that he's kind of living between all the worlds. You know, you see the physical, his feet are on this hill, so they're on the earth, and his hands are up in the sky. And
he has a very fiery loincloth.
He has a fiery loincloth, so you've got that element there. But the thing that I really specifically remember about this card from 2011 is that his head was in the clouds. And I thought that was interesting. And this, to me at the time, because Cyndera's readings aren't literal. They really work with the symbology. You don't, move over to the guidebook to see what it means. You yourself, the person viewing it, work with the images on the card. So I specifically remember being very fascinated by the fact that there was a male figure with his feet on the ground, which means you're grounded, but also reaching to the sky, which to me is a sign of, relationship to the divine, reaching up. But his head was in the clouds, which also means he's a dreamer, and that, I'm a dreamer as well, so that was all very attractive to me. And that was 2011, and I will say that I was asking about, I felt more ready to be in a real relationship with someone, to, something a little bit more long-term, and I was looking for guidance kind of around what that would look like, and I pulled this Maui card then, and then little Miss Cyndera pulls it today and reminds me of how that reading went. And,
wow.
Much has come from that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's just amazing. The cards just blow me away every time, And we're not going to say the name of this particular man in your life now, but it's very uncanny how it relates to the card.
All I will say is I have met my Maui man, and nothing that I would have predicted or anything before, but it's pretty uncanny, and I really want to get my hands on this deck. I always have, but they're kind of hard to find. But living here on Maui and really respecting and honoring and learning more about the culture. My family has ties to Hawaii for many years as well, but being here is definitely something special. And really, Cyndera, what you were saying about place, physical spaces, when we have gone over the archetypes of the tarot and the major arcana, we're really doing the Jungian psychology people, the physical, personages that we can see, the characters that show up in the tarot, as well as situations. We've never specifically talked about physicality in relationship to the symbols in the tarot and just how important that is in life. We talk about psychology and things of the mind and things of the heart and emotions, but physical place is, I think your work speaks to with the relationship to the stones.
To the stones. So we've come down to earth. We're coming down into that earth element. And I can't think of a more appropriate place to do that than Hawaii, where literally on the Big Island where I was visiting, the land is in progress of being made. The island is getting bigger as we speak. It's a place of stone making, of land making, of creativity from that physical action. It's just unbelievable.
And that's it. Some people might be going, how does that happen? Well, there's 2 major volcanoes on the Big Island, and one of them is highly active. And Cyndera got to actually witness this lava bubbling up from underneath the Earth's crust and making new planet, basically.
Yeah, I saw it flowing and moving its way towards the ocean. In fact, while I was staying on the Big Island, it crossed over a road and into the ocean, this particular flow. And I hiked out and took a mountain bike for 4 miles in the dark and witnessed this amazing event of seeing all of the elements. I mean, how often do you see earth, air, fire, and water all interacting together? It was pretty incredible.
I think that means we're going to have to put some of your pictures and video up on the website.
Yes, I would love to share those with you. But that's where Pele, I mean, I really tapped into what that meant
now
to
you have
see
to
her
mention,
in progress.
Now you got to tell people who is Pele.
Oh, who is Pele? She is this amazing creator goddess of the Hawaiian Islands, and she is the creator of the Hawaiian Islands. And she has amazing powers of that creative flow, but also of destruction. So she feels very Durga in a lot of ways.
I think of, I mean, certainly when I think of the gods and goddesses in mythology, I think they're all rays of the same sun, but they are different from each other. But I do think of Durga. Durga is a Hindu goddess who is a mother destroyer. So she's both. It's that embracing the paradoxical power, the relationship of death and life in a continuum. And Pele certainly is that to me, and kind of an analog, or they're like sister goddesses in that way, that they represent life and destruction together. And they often you look at volcanoes as being an embodiment of Pele, and Pele's life and fire. She's the fire bringer in the culture, and Hawaiian mythology is amazing, and there's so much to learn. I'm just beginning, and learning hulas and the dance, which is storytelling, but it's so much more. And I did hula back in San Francisco for a while, and doing it here is it's a whole new thing. It's a whole deeper story. But the Pele to me is the one most people talk about, and she to me anyway feels like she's in charge.
Yeah, I saw that. If she wants to have a path to the ocean, she's gonna have a path to the ocean, and nobody's gonna stop her. I very much felt humbled by that presence of, she's gonna get what she wants. But she taught me a lot about, so like when we approach the cards, we have a question, right? And my question was, where should I be allowing the flow of my lava? Where should my energy, my focus on, I have so many projects, so many things going on, right? Where does that energy and where does the power need to focus to? And I think that that's an amazing thing that you can tap into on the islands with all of this around you. I was part of the Purusha retreat. I just want to put their name in there because it was just an amazing, amazing group of people that came together to explore these kinds of questions. It was the Manifest Your Destiny retreat. Highly, highly recommended. And just being with a group here was incredibly powerful and meaningful. And I'm so glad I get to follow up here with Julienne and be here with her after so much changes happen in our lives, and we're so happy to share that with you now. So, what else?
It's true. Well, I want to mention too, you mentioned Purusha. Many people have no idea what that is.
Oh, yeah.
Purusha is a yoga studio and yoga school in San Francisco where Cyndera still resides, and I have moved from. So that's something that we can put in the show notes as well. But I think going back to the idea of the physical spaces that we inhabit, we're right in midsummer, at least in this part of the world. It's the time of year where it's still summertime, but things are kind of starting to move towards fall. And I think wherever you live, weather is the one thing people talk about, in small talk, because it affects everyone. And it tends to be neutral in terms of politics and religion, weather is there. So, but I think to talk about how you inhabit the physical space that you're in, and the archetypes of earth, air, fire, and water, to look at the elements and then how you live in that space and how do the animals and the creatures. Now, I was so ready to leave the city, like so ready. I spent every morning pretty much living in San Francisco, going out to Golden Gate Park to spend time in trees and to be in nature, even though I never left the sound of traffic. It was a constant. And for me, I knew I didn't want to live in the city anymore, but I didn't know where to go. And I just had to follow my intuition. I visited Portland, Oregon. I visited north of there in southern Washington. I went to all these different places. Goldilocks, my friends called me, because I was like, this one's not right. It's not this. And I had to trust. It was not an intellectual pursuit. It was not, like I was saying, as we cover the tarot, a very, it wasn't about my intellect. It wasn't about my mind. I really had to let the mind go and be more with my body. It was a hard body.
We hope you're enjoying this episode, and we invite you to become a part of the Archetypal Tarot team by becoming a patron. It's super easy, and there are some awesome rewards for joining. So just visit tiny.cc/tarot for more information. And now back to our program.
Experience for me, and getting to Maui back in November, I really did. My brain, my intellectual side did not say that this is the place I was going to be. It's so far away. It's expensive. It's a lot of the intellectual reasons why not. But I had to and was forced to trust my body and my heart to tell me where I needed to be. And let me just add, in terms of the intellect, meeting someone and dating, at whatever age can be difficult, right? It can be even more difficult. And I was told by many people, you don't want to date in Hawaii because it's small islands. Everyone knows everyone else. Everyone's whatever, blah, blah, blah. There aren't very many new people to meet. And, maybe you'll meet a tourist or whatever like that. So I was even discouraged implicitly and directly from moving to Maui. And so it was basically like the head and the heart, right? The head was going, you can't possibly move this far away, etc. But I got here and, showed up to the island and just, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, okay, let's just see what happens. And it was a physical experience of a place that I was like, by the end of my 2 months here, I was like, there's no question.
Right.
My intellect could fight it all I wanted, but it was just like, no, the symbols, how all of that worked together, and how the islands are less about people and more about the environment. Everything's sort of turned on its head from living in the city. There really aren't that many sidewalks here. Oh, if you go to Oahu and you go to Honolulu, it's a big city, that's for sure. But where I am, even if I'm in, a seaside town, it is more about the physical space and being in that rather than making space for the natural world, which is a lot of big cities have a big park. Switching that around, and so letting go of the intellect, letting go of the need to know. I did almost no tarot work when I first got here because I didn't want to be inside. I had to be outside.
It wasn't about the tarot. It was about the tarot root for a while.
It was about, yes, it was about the tarot plant.
Well, as I hear your story, I think it's a really great thing for everyone to take a look at in their lives about, what are the beliefs that are being held on to that are, you cannot do this because of A, B, and C. And the stories that we tell ourselves about why you can't do the things that are deep down really calling you. So I think it can be a valuable exploration to re-examine those stories. And the tarot can help you get a bird's eye view of the stories, the other possibilities that are available to you. In fact, Maui popped up in a card almost a decade ago. I wish I would have done a very literal reading. I wish it had been like, you need to move to Maui, there's a man there. But I'm sure all these things happen when they're supposed to. You can't just be plopped, into a new place when you're not ready to be there. You have to go through the stages that will ready you for what's ready for you, I think. And so I think that that's really important to examine and explore.
Absolutely. And there's the sense of timing. The timing's not up to us. What is up to us is honestly being present, coming back to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I was literally taught when I was here before. And actually, I took a trip to the Big Island with it. It was be present, be present. And there's something about being in nature and remembering that wilderness, wild, the archetype of the wild, meaning we are people who walk around and think we've got ourselves and our world under control, but you get out on the ocean on a boat or you go into the jungle, you are in wilderness. There's the wildness. You don't have control, and it's scary. And I personally, even though I've been scared a few times on hikes or whatnot, flash floods, anything can happen. There's an appreciation of the immediacy of your surroundings and the deep need for us to be present, that we can't live in our heads all the time, and that the world is wild, and wildness is a blessed thing, not to be tamed. And I think back, it was a year or so ago, and I talked to Greg Lavoie about his book about the nature and nurture of passion. He talked about wildness as being one of those columns, one of those points that we need to get back into the wild, and you need to get a little scared. I call it I've had my ass handed to me more than a few times by Mother Ocean here, out swimming or snorkeling, when a wave just comes up and grabs you. And it's wild. But so I'm not recommending walking into the ocean if you can't swim. I can swim, but there are moments where you're just like, whoa, Mother Ocean just decided to roll me around and smack me down. But it's important to take those moments of awakening to realize that we're part of a larger system, and it's not all about the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the physical connectivity to things is really, really important. And you've experienced it on the Big Island, and you've been to Oahu before. And maybe it is, like I was saying, we're the most isolated land masses in on the globe, that there is so much that's untouched here because we're so far away. There's so much that just, the air is pure, and I think the energy is pure in a way, and why people really love vacationing here. Sure, it's about the beaches and, the beautiful 85-degree weather and all of that, but I sense it's a little bit more. There's a lot of healing that can be done amongst the wild and amongst the pure, because I think just people's energy is different here. It's forced to be different. You're disconnected from so much. And that is something that's you're forced to meditate. So many distractions are gone, and the stars are brighter because there's no light pollution. And, how do you, without necessarily having to come to Hawaii, but it's a beautiful place, but not everyone can do that. How do you, bring a sense of that sort of, purity and a sense of place to wherever you're living?
I heard something interesting about the whole tiki thing that came about. It became popular in the 50s. Because, and that is the decade when people were really all about the work and going back to work and getting their family set up, and
post-war,
the post-war, and to try and awaken, probably unconsciously, we need to relax. This whole fetishizing of the tiki imagery and style, and the Hawaiian shirts and the fancy straws and glasses and drinks and things came about, and it was really the American society trying to kind of adopt, oh God, we are really stressing and working a lot these days. How can we get more chill? And so without appropriating culture, we got to find ways that we can adopt and bring in, more relaxation, more downtime. I mentioned in our last podcast the book by Hodgkinson, how to be idle, you know. And I think that these are things to keep in mind. How can we tone down the craziness? I know, I totally, living in San Francisco, there's just too much to do and so much going on. So I'm really hoping to bring the seed or maybe a tea plant back with me to remind me what this feels like. You're so lucky.
Don't be jelly. I think the spirit of aloha, and that's something that we said at the beginning of this podcast. We started with aloha, and that to me, the spirit of the islands, the word aloha, in popular culture, people think it just means hello or goodbye because it is used as a greeting both when people are coming and when they're going. But aloha means so much more. The Hawaiian language is it's simple in terms of its number of letters and its vocabulary, but the words. So certain words, they mean a lot more than just one thing. In English, many times it's just a single word means a single thing. But aloha, it's used as a greeting, but honestly, it's a little bit more of a blessing. It means compassion and mercy. And Cyndera and I were talking the other night about aloha and the spirit of aloha and how people live here. You see bumper stickers that say practice aloha. And that is, it's mercy, compassion. It represents a kinship of people. So when you say aloha to a person, it's not simply welcome. It's a recognition of the other person, and it's peace, it's blessings. So when you say aloha, either in greeting or when someone's leaving as a salutation, it's a blessing. And it reminds us that we have the ability to bless. And the idea of mercy, it seems like an antiquated word. It really, in our modern language, no one really uses, you don't hear the term mercy. With the exception of, Pope Francis is actually made in the Catholic Church the Year of Mercy. He's made that a theme, or, for people to come back to it. And it is, I think we are much bereft when we aren't addressing or even looking at what the word mercy means. It's compassion and forgiveness in action. It's healing. Mercy is healing. The spirit of aloha and understanding that as lived, it's so much more, and that I don't think I have a full grasp on aloha yet, but I am really happy to be trying to live aloha and be a part of that, and just so blessed to be in a place, partially because it is isolated and was populated by Native Hawaiians, are actually people have only been here 1,600 years maybe. And they actually came from Polynesia and Tonga and Samoa, and then mixed with Portuguese and Filipino and Japanese. So the culture here is one that's definitely, it's mixed by nature, and it's rich because it's so present on the island. It's not as diffused where maybe you're in North Dakota or you're somewhere else in the world where it's been diffused by a lot of other cultures. It's more like things get added on, and it's becomes this beautiful tapestry. And it's got specificity to it too, that I just absolutely adore, and I feel so blessed to be here.
I love the way that I got laid at the airport, I must say. Thank you so much, Julienne. She really did it right, I think.
Lei, L-E-I.
L-E-I.
L-E-I. And I think Cyndera's about to explain what she means, cheeky monkey.
So I get off the airline, the small little island hopper, and she's right there. And she puts the beautiful lei, which is made of the flowers.
It's a wreath, basically. It's a wreath that goes around your neck.
And how does it go? We put our foreheads together?
The Hawaiian, yes. So it's the greeting. So actually you should be grasping each other's shoulders. And then you press your noses together. So the noses are flat against each other. And then you take a breath in. You breathe in. And it's a part of a number of cultures, including Hawaiian as well as Maui culture. You take a breath, you breathe together. And remind each other that you're breathing together.
And then you say aloha.
And then you say aloha.
And I was just reading in the Monocard's book about, it's not just this, thing that's done when you get there, like it's not like the small meaning of aloha, like you were talking about, but it's the giving of a lei was a significant gesture. For weaved into it was the mana, which is the other word for power, energy, and the trust of the person who offered it. So I take this with full responsibility, Julianne. You're part of my ohana.
Yes, ohana means family. Ohana means family. I have to say, I do like Lilo and Stitch. There are parts of it that are great. Mm-hmm. But so that the discovery of, no matter where you live, and we know we have a lot of listeners in Europe and places that actually have a much longer culture than in the United States, understanding what are the symbols of where you live. What are the symbols of maybe you've got itchy feet like me, who's just like, it's time to go, it's time to make a move. How do you take a look at what is the language of the physical place that you live, and maybe what does it look like where you're going? And to kind of take that with you, to pay attention to that. I think politically and everything that's happening in the United States right now, there is, I think getting back to some of the physical nature of reality and out of the sort of argumentative intellectual place, I don't think that's going to be the answer. I think we need to connect more on a heart level and really kind of understand physical spaces and how we are connected in that, instead of just looking at what the divisiveness and the big differences, which I think really come from ego, and the trying to prove that someone's right. Like we're right because we've got facts, and the other ones we're right because we're angry. So being a part of that solution, I think, could be served well by looking at your physical space and what's manifesting in your life and how's your relationship. Check that relationship with space around you, and animals, and how well do you get along with geckos? I love them.
They love
geckos. They're my friends.
Papaya. They were on the table licking. They were so cute.
Now we have to put up a photo of
the gecko licking the papaya.
My geckos are not that social and just hang out and eat the spiders in my house. So I'm that's cool.
Oh my gosh.
So have we had enough? I mean, we're back to, we probably won't be in the same physical space for a little bit anyway.
Well, I am going to be coming back here probably every year for the amazing Manifest Your Destiny retreat, which happens every summer on the Big Island. So I will be coming back for that. But we will have more podcasts before that time.
Yes,
before
much is happening, so. And all will be revealed in time.
Yes. Whoa, you sound so wise.
I fake it. So I think that's it for now. Both of us, I know, send aloha to everyone listening. Thank you again for your patience. We didn't realize that our sabbatical was going to take quite as long as it has. But, we've been doing this for, 5-6 years now. So
no way.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
So much love to all of you, and do not hesitate to let us know what you'd like us to talk about or whatever by sending us an email, a tweet, something on Facebook. All that info will be right after this. So until then,
aloha!
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to become a part of the Archetypal Tarot team by becoming one of our patrons. Our patrons are awesome. So if you're interested, visit tiny.cc/tarot for more information and the awesome rewards for joining. That's tiny.cc/tarot.